Kale Arden's hands shook as the sky split open with fire. Debris rained down from the shattered battle drones above, and a blinding flash streaked across the horizon. The colony's alarm bells screamed, sending everyone into chaos. Kale's heart pounded, but he didn't hesitate. He ducked under a falling beam, grabbed a young child who had frozen in fear, and rolled to safety behind a half-collapsed wall. Above him, the air rippled with heat and electricity. A shadow fell across the settlement, massive and terrifying. Sparks skittered off the ground as something enormous descended. Kale's stomach dropped. The Dragon Queen landed with a thunderous crash, each scale of her armor clanging like metal against metal. Smoke curled from her damaged plates, and streaks of molten energy arced along her spine. Her roar shook the ground beneath Kale's feet, a sound so fierce that even the hardened settlers winced. Kale's eyes caught the shimmer first. Tiny, glowing nanites crawled across the cracks in her armor, pulsing like living veins of light. They moved with purpose, almost aware. He had never seen anything like it. The armor wasn't just broken, it was alive. The question burned in his mind, had someone repaired her already? And if so, who? The Queen's eyes, twin embers of molten amber, locked onto him. She sniffed the air, sensing something, her gaze sharp, intelligent. Kale's hands were still holding the child. He couldn't run, couldn't hide. Every instinct screamed at him to flee, but he forced himself to stay calm. A single wrong move here would mean death, not just for him but for the child and anyone still outside. Who repaired my armor? The Queen's voice rolled across the settlement like a storm. The words vibrated through the air, deeper than any machine or natural sound. Kale's ears rang. Sparks leapt from her damaged plates, scorching the ground nearby. The child whimpered, clutching his arm, and Kale pulled him closer. Kale's mind raced. He had only seconds to act. The damage to her armor wasn't superficial. It threatened to overload her energy core. If it blew, the blast could wipe out the colony. He didn't know if she would let him near her, but leaving it alone was impossible. He spotted a half-intact service hatch on her side, its locking mechanism dangling loose. It was just out of reach, but he didn't think. He sprinted, dodging sparks and falling debris, adrenaline sharpening every sense. As he leapt for the hatch, the nanites pulsed brighter, almost as if they recognized him. His fingers brushed the metal and a shock ran through his arm. Not pain, something else. A subtle hum like a heartbeat. Kale froze, realizing the swarm was not random. The Queen's armor wasn't just a shell, it had a mind of its own, and it was awake. The Queen hissed, a sound of warning and curiosity mixed together. She shifted her massive body, smoke and sparks flying in every direction. Kale gritted his teeth, refusing to let fear control him. He adjusted his grip, careful not to trigger an energy backlash, and pushed a small control lever on his portable toolkit. The panel sparked, hummed, and stabilized. A tiny pulse of energy shot through the nanites. The Queen shivered. For a heartbeat she paused. Her roar faded into a low, rumbling growl. The settlement's survivors stared, frozen, unsure if they should cheer or run. Kale didn't wait to see. He grabbed the child and backed away, keeping his eyes on her, heart hammering. He had done something, he didn't know what, but it had worked. For a moment the impossible felt possible. Then, with terrifying suddenness, her gaze hardened again. Her wings snapped open, each movement creating gusts strong enough to lift debris like paper. Sparks flew dangerously close to Kale's feet, and one of the hovering drones swerved, crashing into a storage module. A secondary explosion rocked the ground beneath him. The Queen's roar returned, sharper this time, louder, angrier. Kale froze, sweat running down his temple. The nanites along her armor glowed brighter, their pattern shifting rapidly, almost like they were communicating or judging. The Queen lowered her massive head, smoke curling from her nostrils, and locked her gaze on Kale once more. "Who repaired my armor?" she demanded again, slower this time as if she wanted the answer. Kale swallowed hard, clutching the child tighter. He had no idea what to say. Every second counted. One wrong word, one wrong move, and it would be over, not just for him but for everyone in the colony. The hum of the nanites grew stronger under his fingers. Something told him they wanted him to act. They were alive. They were listening. And then, without warning, a spark jumped from the Queen's armor and landed mere inches from Kale's foot. The ground cracked, sending shards flying. He barely jumped back in time. His heart skipped. He realized this wasn't just about repairing metal. This was about life, intelligence, and a decision that could change everything. Kale took a deep breath, looking up at the immense, living machine that was the Dragon Queen. He had to move. He had to act. And in that moment he understood, nothing about today would be ordinary again. Kale's legs burned as he backed away from the Dragon Queen, the child pressed tightly against his chest. Every step was measured. One wrong movement, and the sparks from her armor could singe him, or worse. The colony trembled around them. Smoke, dust, and the smell of scorched metal filled the air. Kale's mind raced, scanning for options. He couldn't run. Not now. Not with her watching, and not with the child in his arms. The Queen shifted, each movement causing the ground to quake. Sparks flew from her damaged armor, licking the edges of buildings. A hovering drone, still functioning despite its mangled propeller, fired a warning shot, narrowly missing Kale. He flinched but didn't falter. There was no time to panic. He needed a plan, and fast. Kale noticed the nanites pulsing faster along her armor. They weren't random. They were reacting to him. He had touched them before. They seemed alive, aware, almost intelligent. That gave him a small edge. If he could connect with them again, maybe he could stabilize the Queen's armor before she lost control. But how? One wrong touch, one misstep, and the energy core could overload. The Queen lowered her head, eyes narrowing. She sniffed the air like a predator testing a scent. "Who repaired my armor?" she repeated, slower this time, each word heavy with menace. Kale realized she wasn't just angry, she was suspicious, intelligent, and calculating. Every human instinct screamed that she could kill him in an instant. But Kale had to act. Hesitation would cost lives. He crouched behind a smashed supply container, eyeing a panel along the Queen's side. The hatch he had barely reached before was still slightly open. If he could just reach it again, he could touch the nanites directly and try to communicate, stabilize the damage before she panicked and struck. But reaching it meant exposing himself to her full gaze. Kale's hands itched. He could do this. He had to. With a deep breath, he sprinted, zigzagging to avoid sparks and falling debris. He barely ducked under a flying shard of metal, feeling it graze his shoulder. Pain flared, but he ignored it. Adrenaline sharpened his mind. He reached the hatch. The nanites reacted immediately, pulsing brighter at his touch. He could feel their energy hum through his fingertips, like they were alive, aware of him. He pressed his portable repair toolkit against the panel, adjusting the energy flow with rapid, precise movements. Sparks crackled, then settled. The Queen shivered as if she felt relief, or recognition. Kale allowed himself a small, fleeting smile. He had done it. For a moment, he had calmed a galactic titan with nothing but human skill and courage. Then the secondary explosion came. A damaged energy conduit on the Queen's wing erupted, sending fire and smoke skyward. Kale yelped, shielding the child, and rolled behind the container again. The Queen's roar returned, louder, more furious than before. Sparks flew dangerously close. Kale's fingers were scorched by the nanites' feedback, but he gritted his teeth and continued working. Every second mattered. Something clicked. The nanites responded differently now, more deliberately, almost like they were listening. Kale realized they weren't just alive, they were sentient, and they were waiting for him to lead. He adjusted the toolkit's output, feeding a careful pulse into the swarm. The sparks dimmed. The Queen froze mid-roar. She hovered, massive wings outstretched, watching him. Kale felt a surge of hope. He had a tiny victory. But the Queen wasn't done. Her tail lashed across the ground, toppling a stack of supply crates and sending a wave of debris toward Kale. He kicked the child away to safety and rolled out of the path, narrowly avoiding being crushed. The Queen's amber eyes followed every movement, intelligent and unforgiving. Kale realized something chilling. She could destroy the colony in seconds if she chose. He took a deep breath. There was no more hesitation. He stood upright, facing the Queen, toolkit in hand, and spoke. "I didn't repair your armor fully," he shouted over the roar, "but I can help you stabilize it before it kills everyone, including you." The Queen tilted her massive head as if analyzing him. Sparks fizzled from her armor, forming patterns that almost looked like a heartbeat. Kale could feel it, a strange connection forming between him and the nanites. The Queen's sensors were testing him, probing for intent. One wrong move and they would strike. But she hesitated. Then came a new danger. A rogue combat drone, still flying erratically, swooped down directly at Kale. Without thinking, he grabbed a fallen metal beam and swung it, knocking the drone off course. It crashed into a wall, sparking and smoking. Small payoff, he had protected the child, and the Queen hadn't reacted violently. Kale could feel the tiny trust he was building, fragile but real. Suddenly, a pulse of energy shot from the Queen's core, sweeping the ground near Kale. Sparks erupted and the floor beneath him cracked. He jumped back, clutching the child, and landed in a cloud of dust. The nanites along her armor glowed brighter, almost as if laughing, or warning him. Kale realized she was testing him, pushing him to see if he was clever enough, brave enough. Kale swallowed hard, heart pounding, and touched the nanites again. The hum vibrated through him, stronger now. He adjusted the energy flow, stabilizing a critical joint on her armor. A low rumble came from the queen, not a roar this time but something almost approving. Kale allowed himself a quick breath. Another small victory. But just as he relaxed, the queen's massive wings snapped upward, creating a gust so strong it knocked Kale off balance. Sparks flew into the air and the settlement shook. The child screamed, and Kale had to catch him before he was blown into a burning pile of rubble. The queen's growl returned, deep and unsettling. She was far from calm. Kale realized the stakes had grown. Stabilizing her armor wasn't enough. He had to find a way to earn her trust while keeping the settlement alive. And he had no idea how to do it. As he looked up, the queen's amber eyes narrowed, and the nanites pulsed in a strange, deliberate rhythm. Something told Kale that the next move would not just decide the colony's fate, but his own life as well. Kale pressed himself against a fractured wall, the child clinging to his side, and tried to steady his shaking hands. The dragon queen hovered above, massive wings folded but still thrumming with power. Sparks ran like veins across her armor, and the hum of the nanites pulsed faster than before, almost as if they were speaking directly to him. Every instinct screamed danger, yet Kale couldn't look away. He needed to act, and fast. The queen's armor was more than just broken metal, it was alive. And the energy readings he'd taken with his portable scanner showed the damage was spreading toward her core. One more shock, one more overload, and the settlement could be obliterated in an instant. Kale made a decision. He couldn't just stabilize a section anymore, he had to reach the energy core directly. He looked for a route. Sparks and shards of metal fell around him like deadly rain, but he spotted a narrow platform along her side, a maintenance ledge likely used by her own kind. If he could reach it, he could access the internal circuits, maybe even talk to the nanites directly. The queen shifted and Kale froze. She wasn't attacking, but she was watching, judging. Amber eyes burned into him, intelligent and fierce. He could feel her analyzing him, testing him. Every muscle in his body tensed, but he forced himself forward. Step by step, he climbed, debris scraping against his palms, sparks dancing dangerously close. When he reached the ledge, Kale caught a glimpse inside a cracked armor panel. His breath caught. There, embedded in the core's protective lattice, was a small device, not alien but unmistakably human. He recognized the design. A miniature AI interface, one of the early models his colony had secretly built for advanced robotics. Someone had repaired the queen before him, using human technology. Shock raced through Kale, but he didn't falter. He touched the interface cautiously. It hummed, pulsing in response to his skin. The nanites along the queen's armor reacted instantly, brightening like a living heartbeat. For the first time, the dragon queen froze completely, her roar fading to a low, questioning growl. She tilted her massive head, smoke curling from her nostrils, as if sensing what he had discovered. Kale's mind spun. Whoever had placed this AI here had incredible foresight. But the device wasn't controlling her, it was dormant, waiting. It responded to human touch with recognition, not dominance. That explained the nanite's strange behavior. Kale realized something vital. This queen, terrifying and powerful, could be reasoned with. If he approached carefully, he could communicate through the device. He took a deep breath and spoke aloud, voice steady despite the pounding in his chest. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said. "I want to help. Your armor is failing, it could kill everyone including you. I can stabilize it." The queen's head dipped lower, bringing her glowing eyes closer to him. Sparks arced off her armor as if she were testing his intent. The nanites rippled, forming patterns Kale had never seen before, complex, deliberate, almost like a language. He realized that the AI interface was teaching him, guiding him, waiting for him to show intelligence and courage. Kale quickly adjusted his toolkit, feeding a controlled pulse into the interface. Energy hummed through the nanites, and a section of the queen's damaged armor straightened, the cracks knitting together as if stitched by unseen hands. The queen tilted her head again, this time closer, smoke drifting past his face, wings fluttering slightly. She wasn't attacking. Not yet. Small victory, but danger remained. The queen's energy core was still unstable. Sparks flared from her back, sending a wave of heat toward him. Kale shielded the child, moving instinctively, and whispered, "We need to calm it, together, The AI interface pulsed in response. Kale understood, he wasn't just repairing machinery. He was negotiating with a living intelligence that spanned both alien and human tech. Every adjustment he made had to be precise, careful, intelligent. One misstep and the Queen could explode in rage. Then came the twist. As Kale worked, a hidden compartment in the interface opened slightly, revealing a miniature holographic map. Star systems, coordinates, and strange symbols flickered in the air above it. The Queen's amber eyes seemed to follow the holographic light, and Kale realized with a jolt, she wasn't just angry about the armor. She had been carrying a message, a mission, something critical. Someone had repaired her before, not to control her, but to prepare her for it. Kale's pulse quickened. This wasn't just about survival. This was bigger than the colony, bigger than the battle raging above. He was holding the key to something ancient, something that could change the balance of the galaxy. The Queen's wings beat suddenly and Kale stumbled but held his position. Sparks flew closer, a wave of heat washing over him. The child screamed and Kale clutched him tighter, pressing forward, refusing to retreat. The nanites hummed louder, almost urging him to continue. "Please," he said, voice firm. "Trust me. I can help you. I can fix this before it's too late." For a moment nothing happened. Then a low vibration ran through the Queen's body. Sparks dimmed along her armor. Her roar faded, leaving only a low, resonant hum. The nanites pulsed in sync with Kale's movements. He had made contact. She wasn't fully calm, but she was listening. Kale allowed himself a brief, cautious smile. The impossible was possible. A human, just one mechanic, was influencing a being of unimaginable power. One clever, brave decision had changed everything. But before he could relax further, the Queen's eye glowed brighter than before, and a strange vibration ran through the ground. Kale felt it deep in his bones. The AI interface pulsed violently, projecting a new set of coordinates across the holographic map. Someone, or something, was coming. Kale's stomach dropped. Stabilizing the armor was only the beginning. Whatever was out there, whatever awaited, it was bigger, smarter, and more dangerous than he could imagine. Kale's pulse raced as the holographic map flickered in front of him. The coordinates pulsed violently, almost like a warning, while the Dragon Queen hovered, massive wings quivering, eyes burning amber with intensity. Sparks ran along her damaged armor, hotter now, more erratic. Every nerve in Kale's body screamed danger. One false move and the energy core could explode, or worse, she could strike without hesitation. He clutched the child tightly, scanning the Queen's armor for weak points and unstable energy flows. The AI interface hummed in sync with his tools, guiding his hands, but the pulsing energy was unpredictable. Kale realized he had only one chance. He had to act decisively, fast, and perfectly. Hesitation would mean death, not just for him and the child but for the entire colony. The first surge came without warning. A pulse of raw energy shot out from the Queen's core, slamming into the ground and sending shards of metal flying like bullets. Kale ducked behind a fractured beam, the child pressed against his chest, and rolled as the heat licked at his back. Sparks scorched the walls, and a section of the nearby settlement collapsed in a cloud of dust. Kale had no time to breathe. He scrambled forward, using the debris as cover, and reached the open maintenance hatch along her side. The nanites responded instantly, crawling over his gloves, pulsing like a heartbeat. Kale adjusted the toolkit, feeding a precise pulse into the interface. Sparks arced dangerously close, but the Queen froze mid-movement, wings beating in slow, cautious strokes. He pressed deeper into the armor, following the AI's subtle guidance. The damaged circuits hummed under his touch, energy flowing like molten metal. The Queen's tail lashed against the ground, narrowly missing him, sending debris tumbling over his feet. Kale's heart pounded, but he didn't falter. Every adjustment he made had a clear effect. A stabilizing pulse here, a diverted energy flow there. Slowly the armor's chaotic sparks began to dim. Then came the critical moment. The energy core, the heart of the Queen's fury, flared violently, a blinding white-hot light that bathed Kale in heat. One wrong touch and it would detonate. Kale's hands were steady, fingers flying across the interface controls. He tapped into the nanites directly, synchronizing with their rhythm, coaxing them to contain the overload. The Queen shuddered beneath him, massive shoulders straining, smoke curling from her nostrils. Kale's voice was firm, steady, though every word was shouted over the roaring energy. "Trust me. I can fix this, but I need you to hold still." The Queen's amber eyes narrowed and she hesitated. Sparks flared along her armor, but the nanites under Kale's control pulsed brighter, almost like a heartbeat in response to his courage. A wave of energy shot toward the settlement, but Kale anticipated it. He redirected the current, guiding it through the nanites and into the Queen's armor, stabilizing the flow just enough to prevent a catastrophic blast. Debris froze midair, dust settled and the ground quaked beneath them, but the colony survived. Small victory, but Kale knew it wasn't over. The Queen's core still throbbed dangerously, and she was watching him closely, her gaze sharp, calculating. He could sense her recognition. She wasn't angry now, she was testing him. Every move he made was scrutinized, every adjustment a question she was asking. Can this human truly help me? Kale didn't hesitate. He tapped the interface again, this time feeding a stabilizing pulse directly into the AI, aligning its energy with the Queen's nanites. Sparks fizzled, circuits hummed in harmony, and the Queen's wings folded slightly, a subtle sign of approval. Kale exhaled in relief, small payoff, but he stayed alert. The Queen was massive, alive and unpredictable. One mistake now would still be fatal. Then the pattern interrupt came. The AI interface pulsed violently and projected a sudden holographic warning. Across the map, a new threat appeared, coordinates lighting up with bright red signals. Someone, or something, was coming. Kale's stomach twisted. He had stabilized the Queen for now, but the galaxy had more tests in store. The Queen let out a low, resonant growl, almost contemplative. Sparks along her armor danced like lightning, and Kale realized she was watching the map, not him. The AI interface had revealed something she couldn't ignore, something that demanded action beyond this colony. His heart pounded. Whatever was approaching, it was bigger, faster, and smarter than he could imagine. Kale knew he had to do more. He climbed higher along the Queen's side, moving closer to her energy core. Every step was a gamble, every breath could be his last. The nanites pulsed in rhythm with his pulse and he adjusted the toolkit one last time. Sparks from the core shot up, hotter than before, and Kale's gloves smoked. But the Queen held still, her eyes locked on him, amber and alive. He tapped the final sequence. Energy flowed through the nanites, stabilizing the core completely. The blinding light dimmed, sparks vanished, and the Queen exhaled, smoke drifting from her nostrils. She tilted her massive head, lowering herself closer to Kale. For the first time she made no aggressive move. Instead, she projected a low hum, a sign of acknowledgement. Kale pressed the child closer to his chest, letting himself feel the small, fleeting triumph. He had done it. Against impossible odds, a human mechanic had calmed a being that could have obliterated an entire settlement. His courage, intelligence, and quick thinking had worked. But the victory was brief. The Queen's eye flickered, and the nanites along her armor pulsed toward the holographic map. The new coordinates glowed brighter. Kale realized the stabilization was only the first step. The Queen had shown him the path, something beyond this battle, something vast and dangerous. Kale swallowed hard. His heart still raced, his hands burned from sparks, and the child clung to him, eyes wide. The Queen's growl shifted, almost approving, almost a warning. He had won for now, but the galaxy had already set the next challenge in motion. Kale sank to one knee, the child still clutched in his arms. The settlement around them was battered, scarred by falling debris and fire, but it had survived. Smoke rose in thin spirals, mingling with the lingering sparks from the Queen's armor. She hovered above, massive wings folding slowly, eyes softening from molten amber fury to something almost thoughtful. The nanites across her scales pulsed gently, synchronized with Kale's own pulse. For the first time he realized this wasn't just armor or machinery, this was a living intelligence that could sense courage, empathy, and determination. The AI interface flickered quietly on her side, the holographic map now dimmed but still alive with subtle energy patterns. Kale exhaled, relief washing over him. The child, still trembling, peered up at him with wide, unblinking eyes. "You saved us," the boy whispered. Kale managed a small, tired smile. "We saved each other," he said. There was truth in that statement. The Queen had listened, the nanites had responded, and he had acted with courage, intelligence, and compassion. The Dragon Queen lowered her massive head closer to Kale, her eyes burning steadily, yet no longer with rage. Sparks flickered faintly across her armor as if acknowledging his bravery. Then, in a voice that rumbled like distant thunder, deep and resonant, she spoke, "You are more than a mechanic. You understand honor." Kale's pulse quickened, awe and disbelief mixing in equal measure. He had spoken to titanic intelligence, faced death at every turn, and yet she had recognized him not as prey but as an ally. In that moment the impossible felt real. A human, fragile and small, had influenced a being of immense power. His courage had bridged worlds. The child giggled softly, a trembling sound at first, then louder as the tension eased. Cale hugged him tightly. Around them, settlers cautiously emerged from hiding, eyes wide, jaws slack. Wordless awe passed between them. They had witnessed not only survival but proof that humanity could stand unbroken, even against creatures they had only heard about in myths. But Cale knew the relief was temporary. The AI interface flickered again, this time projecting a brief, shimmering hologram of distant star systems. Red signals blinked on the map, coordinates marking unknown worlds. The Dragon Queen's amber eyes followed the projection, alert and focused. Cale's stomach twisted. Whoever, or whatever, was out there had already noticed them. The galaxy's tests were far from over. He wiped sweat and grime from his forehead and glanced up at her. "I don't know what's coming next," he said quietly. "But we'll face it, together." The Queen exhaled, smoke curling softly from her nostrils. For a creature of fury and fire, it was the closest thing to trust she had offered. Cale let himself feel it even for a moment. Cale stood and looked over the settlement. The damage was real, homes were flattened, supplies destroyed, but no lives had been lost beyond the initial chaos. He realized that human ingenuity had mattered. Every decision he had made, every improvised move had prevented disaster. Humans, he thought, could shine even when everything seemed impossible. They could turn despair into survival with courage and quick thinking. He glanced at the Dragon Queen again. Her wings stretched, a ripple of motion that sent sparks of heat and energy along the edges of her armor. Cale understood then, she wasn't merely a weapon of destruction. She was a force that could be reasoned with, guided and, if humans acted wisely, partnered with. The stakes were higher than ever, but so was their potential. A faint hum vibrated through the AI interface. The Queen shifted, and a holographic star system appeared in full, showing a cluster of red-marked planets. Cale's pulse quickened. These weren't coordinates for attack. They were signals of a challenge, something ancient and immense, waiting for those clever and brave enough to face it. The Queen was preparing him. Humanity was being tested. The child tugged on his sleeve. "Are we safe?" Cale looked down, kneeling to meet the boy's gaze. "For now," he said, voice firm but gentle. "But there's always more out there. More challenges, more mysteries. And we'll face them. Humans always do." The boy's eyes widened, awe and trust mingling in his gaze. Cale's chest swelled with determination. The Dragon Queen lowered her head, nudging Cale gently, not with aggression but almost like acknowledgement. The nanites pulsed across her armor, tracing patterns that seemed deliberate, intentional. Cale could feel their intelligence, their awareness, and a quiet understanding settled over him. The Queen had accepted him. The impossible had been achieved. Yet, as Cale surveyed the colony, the holographic map pulsed again, faint red signals moving across the distant star systems. He realized this was only the beginning. The galaxy was far from tamed, and the Dragon Queen, magnificent and terrifying, was only the first step. Humans had survived today, but tomorrow would demand more. Bigger challenges, greater threats, and tests that would push courage and intelligence to their limits. Cale squared his shoulders. Whatever came next, he would be ready. He had learned that humans could shine, even when the odds were impossible. He had faced a galactic titan and survived, not by strength but by cleverness, courage, and compassion. That was the truth he carried with him. That was the human way. As the sun dipped behind the scorched horizon, the Dragon Queen lifted into the sky, her wings stretching wide. Sparks scattered in her wake, but Cale knew she would return, whether as an ally or to lead them into the next great challenge. He hugged the child one last time and whispered, "We'll be ready." The AI interface flickered once more, projecting distant coordinates glowing with urgency. Red signals pulsed like a heartbeat across the star systems. Cale's eyes narrowed with determination. He didn't know what awaited them, but one thing was certain: humanity had proven itself. And they would rise again, smarter, braver, unstoppable. The galaxy's signals pulse with a new, unknown threat. Cale has earned the Dragon Queen's trust, but the next adventure is far bigger, far deadlier, and only the cleverest human could survive it.